So you know what? I've wanted to do this video for like 3 weeks and I just have been overthinking it. Not sure how to start it. This was originally meant to be my first week with the Bambu A1 and now I've had it for nearly a month and I still haven't done this video. I thought it would be interesting to start off with a little introduction as to how I got into 3D printing, because I know on my channel I have a lot of things about sneaker collecting and about fashion and about different things like that. So let me start off with a little story time. If you want to skip this bit, feel free to skip to the next part, which will be my actual experience with the Bambu A1, but let me give you a quick story. So back in 2015, I was selling a few things on eBay and it got to the point that I was selling quite a lot and became a star seller. And I was buying a lot of my things primarily from Alibaba and from AliExpress. And I was speaking to a friend of mine who had recently come back from Taiwan. And I kind of said to him, you know what, it would be a great idea to actually go out there and meet the people that I'm buying from, maybe establish a better relationship and maybe be able to get some sort of a deal. So I think it was 2016, we headed out there. And back then I was like selling like t-shirts and I was selling beanie hats. I think at a time fidget spinners were trending back then. So I bought a bunch of those and was selling those. We headed out there, we went to Guangzhou. And Guangzhou was amazing, man. If you don't know, Guangzhou is like one of the hubs for wholesalers. You also have Shenzhen as well, which is more for like tech, but Guangzhou is known for like clothing, for like leather, for like trainers and for stuff like that. So we headed out there. Whilst we were out there, we also went over to Shenzhen and went to one of their trade fairs. So we got to see a lot of the startups that were innovating and bringing new tech on the scene. So then there was a lot of companies that were selling different drones, different small robots. And it was just, the whole thing for me was fascinating. So fast forward 2018, I actually moved out to China thinking that I can do this more seriously and try to establish some connection. And I was there for 2 years and it was an amazing experience, but I was able to visit a number of factories, whether it be leather, whether it be tech. And I actually had a close friend at the time whose parents were plastic manufacturers. And I got to go down, see some of these factories, see the machinery that I would operate and create some of the things that we use on a daily basis. I just found the whole thing fascinating, man. So I remember thinking to myself, I would love to get into this, but I just didn't know how. And I didn't have anyone that could bring me in because at the time, my Chinese wasn't like hung hao, you know what I mean? It was kind of all right. So boom, I've come back. Fast forward to 2025, which is the most important. Of course, the sneaker hype has kind of gone down. I've kind of gone off of it myself. Fun fact, I actually stopped buying sneakers for a year and I was able to save up and put a deposit down in the house. I'm kind of looking at a lot of videos and I kind of stumbled upon 3D printing and I stumbled upon the Ender and seeing a lot of complaints about that. And I looked at the Creality, then the Bambu P1S and then the A1 and the A1 Mini. And I guess my brother, seeing like my video history and seeing all the videos I'm looking at, he bought me a Bambu A1 for my birthday. Let's actually talk about the Bambu A1 itself. This has become my new addiction. I think I've had it printing every single day since I've bought it. I've printed something. And if it hasn't printed one thing, it's been running overnight to finish some of my longer prints. I'm really just fascinated by the whole printing process. When you first get the Bambu A1 and you do your maintenance and you set it all up, look at the machine and the machine is looking at you and you're kind of thinking, all right, what do I do with it? Like, what do I print? And so I think the first few things that you start off to print, after you've printed off the benchy and you've printed off the little scraper using the sample filament you get at the beginning, then you start to ask yourself, cool, what do I print? So I printed off the top mount because I was bought the little screws kit that you can buy from Maker's Lab. And then I printed off a bin because I noticed that every time my machine was calibrating, it would extrude a bit of poop or a bit of filament that was getting flung to the side. And the small bin that I originally printed off was a bit too small. So I printed off a larger bin with a deflector, helping me to kind of keep the poop inside that bin. I printed off a little side drawer because you get a number of tools that you need to use for the maintenance and for its assembly. And I printed off little handles for the bars that you get with the machine. And all of these things felt great, but they did feel like I was going into a forest, digging a hole and planting flowers, in the sense that I've bought a machine that solves problems, but I'm only solving problems that I have because I've bought this machine, if that makes sense. After printing a few of those things, I started to look around the room because I've been setting up my office and thinking, what can I print? So of course I printed out this little sign from League of Legends, which is the old logo they had because it's one of my favorite games. I printed off this mini Gengar that I definitely have to do a larger print of because Gengar was my favorite Pokemon growing up. I love Ghost Pokemon. And these things are great, but it still felt like I was missing the essence of having a 3D printing machine. That was until I printed off these cable ties. And I think that's when it started to click that, oh, this is actually a machine that you can use to solve problems. I had a number of cables for my MacBooks that were just everywhere, and I do have poor cable management. So I was able to print off these things that helped with that. And then I looked around the room and I said, oh, okay, I've got all of these extra shoes that don't go into the shoebox. Let me print off this shoe rack for those shoes. And then I realized, okay, cool. I need to have a holder for the filament that I've bought. So I printed that off. And then your mind kind of changes. And I think that's where the beauty of 3D printing comes, when you realize that the machine that you have is there to solve problems that you face. Now, of course, it's not going to solve everything, but when you do find a problem that you can remedy with the machine, it feels amazing. And I think that's where I am at the moment. I'm just kind of searching through Maker's Lab, searching through some of the different STL files that are available online and seeing what things I can print to enhance my life. And it's been an amazing journey. When I was originally looking at printers, I was originally looking at the P1S and the A1. And I was only looking at those two because I wanted a machine that was somewhat plug in and play. When I looked at 3D printers originally, when I was looking at them back in the day, and even when I was out in China, there was a lot of maintenance and headache that was involved. And I kind of felt like you didn't get to enjoy the 3D printing as much because you almost had to also become a technician at the same time. And really what I wanted to do was just print. The A1 Mini, I avoided that because I felt that the bed was too small and I didn't want to be limited by the size that I had. The P1S was originally attractive because you have that whole enclosure, which allows you to heat things up and you can print with more materials. The A1, however, is an amazing entry point because it allows you to get your feet wet, because to be very honest, until you own a 3D printer, you won't really know if you truly enjoy it. It's been about a month now and I've printed off a bunch of things and I can say that I do not regret it a second. Of course, I've been posting shorts with some of the things that I find, and to be honest with you, it's just been more like trial and error. So some of the things that I find, if something works, I simply put a video on it and push it to my YouTube channel. It's not like I'm an expert. I'm still learning as I'm going. So there might be shorts that I post now that in a few months I might post something different. But just because I'm learning as I'm going, and I like to share some of the information that I find along the way. And I'm hoping to be able to build up this channel and build up my collection to eventually get the P1S and maybe in the future actually own a print farm, because I think that's what really attracts me about the 3D printer. In the next video that I post, I'm going to be posting about the first things that I printed, some of the things that I recommend as a new user to the Bambu A1, common mistakes that I've made already since I've been printing every day, I can share with you guys so that you easily avoid them. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. There'll be more videos coming soon, so stay tuned. Peace.